Now, what about the theology of this? So I think it's interesting that the purpose, and this was a very common. I actually did this for a fellow just bought his first sailboat. Nice little boat there in the Chicago harbor there. And he wanted me out there to christen it, and it was a used boat, of course, but to christen it and to pray. And it's a tradition among, I think, I think a lot of guys or women that own boats. What do you think about that? It's just kind of fun thing to do. I mean, why are we doing that? Why does the U.S. Navy want you to do that?
Well, yeah, I mean, so chaplains have always been a big part of the U.S. Navy from its inception. In the early days of the Navy, it was the chaplains that knew how to read. And so they taught things on board the ship like navigation and charting.
Wow.
There were a lot of, the chaplains are the ones that kind of came together to form the Naval Academy. So chaplains have played a big role in the U.S. Navy from its inception. And then, obviously at the start of our nation, God played a much bigger role in the lives of everyone. And so it was understanding that the prayers were to bless the crew, to bless the ship in the sense of the crew is, going to be protected by this ship and living on this ship and perhaps fighting and even dying on board a ship. And so prayers were there for, safety, for, thankfulness for the people that labored to build it. And then prayers of protection for captain, crew, and for generations to come. So, it's a unique thing. But you're right. I mean, in the world we live in today, it's a piece of kind of ancient or old tradition. And so the prayer, because
sailors are huge into tradition and superstition in almost a healthy way, right?
Right. That sailors will get still the tattoos, mostly because of the tradition standpoint, but they'll get the tattoo of the pig and the rooster on their feet, which is supposed to, protect them from drowning. Every 5,000 miles that you sail, you get a swallow tattooed on you. So wow, I told my wife that by the end of this, by the time I sail the ship back to San Diego, I'll have sailed like 65,000 miles on board a destroyer. So technically I could get 13 swallows or sparrows tattooed on my body somewhere.
Let's do it.
Yeah, right.
We need a tattoo artist sponsor.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh man. I wonder, is this done for airplanes and stuff like that? I think it probably was at some point.
Maybe. I do know that there's chaplains that are attached to fighting, units with, airplanes, fighter planes, and they'll do the blessing of the planes once a year. But I don't know when they roll one off the assembly line, they don't do an individual prayer for each plane, but they'll do a prayer over the planes. Yeah. Blessings of the pilots. It's similar to you've probably seen this before, where they do the blessing of the hands for nurses and doctors.
Sure.
Some of it may be superstition, some of it might be tradition. It's an opportunity to pray though.
Sure.
Yeah.
The challenge is obviously this is a pluralistic event. So everyone from the crew is mandated to be there, so that, I have to, essentially my goal is to craft a prayer that at the end of it, everybody there, believer or non-believer, can say amen at the end of
Engaged into it. It's a hard one. You chaplains have a hard job there. And the question is, step out. Oh, I can't do anything, or I'm present. And when people talk to me, they get to hear about Jesus and normal personal experiences. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And honest, I might be wrong, but I think early on, I would say we're a deist country, and there are definitely more Christians, and I think a lot of people would think we're talking about the Father, Son, Holy Spirit in the Constitution, etc. But there were plenty that were general God, the great architect, like Thomas Jefferson, etc. And so this is not a new, in a sense, not necessarily a postmodern deal, although they might not have had a problem saying Jesus, back then. It seems to be more challenging now. Is it? It's the lore, sailor lore in that culture is. I think the idea is you're going out it's an adventure of unknown, right? Like a
Mm-hmm.
plane, but a boat, you're going out in the water, and the waters. I don't think you think any more superstition outside of baseball for sailing, because
Sure.
when's the wind going to come or not going to come? It would be the first one with sails, or even just storms come out of nowhere. Jonah
Mm-hmm.
is a great story of a superstitious liturgy and actions. They knew what to do. The wind's crazy. It's nuts. They weren't just making this up. This is what you do. Someone is cursed on this boat because, there's a storm or whatever. And whoever that is, and Jonah knew what to do too. He's like, yeah, that's me. And
They were not wrong, actually.
they weren't
Yeah.
wrong at all, actually.
Yeah.
So I think that really breathes into that. We need, not only God's supervision and blessing of this, but then who knows what the waters are going to bring, especially in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's cool what you're doing. And I think our Navy and those that sail those seas, it's a dangerous thing, and it's an adventurous deal going into the not so much unknown as Columbus, but still,
Yeah.
the ocean is a right. That's why you have these songs, etc. That's a scary, frightening, mysterious thing. Still, I think.
Yeah. There's no out in the middle of the ocean, you feel very quickly how small you are. Especially when you get out past land and or you look out at the stars at night and there's not a single light, especially on a Navy vessel, where you don't have a whole lot of lights going on to begin with. And you just look up at a starry sky and waves, and you realize, there's a whole lot of world out there. And, of course, that fear too of, if you fall off this ship, like the chance of them of being found in the darkness of night is limited. It's dark. You're in the middle of nowhere, and sometimes you don't have a whole lot of communication. So there are some superstitions that people carry with them. Good, bad, otherwise.